Good morning, Spaceflight Insider fans. Jason Ryan here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I'm joined by one Carl Carruthers of NanoRacks. Carl?
Hey, Jason.
Hey, man. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I know the weather's horrible. The conditions at the pad are looking bad. That's sarcasm, folks. This is what we call, it's virtually severe clear, which means there's like barely a cloud in the sky. We've got a little bit of something over there, barely a little something over there. The rocket looks perfect. Everything at the pad looks like they're good. They're not working any issues at this time for the 7th operational flight to the International Space Station, the 8th that a SpaceX Dragon has conducted overall. We want to start off the show by thanking the people that made the show possible, because we never know what's going to happen. It is an actual launch. We are at an actual launch facility. So thanks very much to Space Florida, Orbital ATK, Lockheed Martin, the good folks, the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation,
for this flight, we actually
SpaceTech,
have
and
a small Chinese
we have a new
cabbage
mention this week. It is
that's going
WMEL
on to the
AM
veggie flight.
1300, the
This
Talk to Me
is one
radio station.
crop that
They are
was
sharing our
tested,
streaming feed live
here
along
at
with
Kennedy
SpaceTech, so
Space
you can
Center.
see our
We looked
goodness
through
all
a
around the web
variety
today.
of different types
And
of crops,
you know what? Before I really get into
and
the
we grew
specifics
them,
about the
and we saw
mission,
how well they grew,
Carl, we only got
and
you
we
for like maybe a
also
half
tested
hour.
them for nutrition.
You work
And
for one of the
then we
coolest
actually
companies
grew some
out
more,
there.
sent
You got a
them to
lot going
Johnson
for you
Space
right
Center,
now.
It is
and
the
tested
best, I
them
think the best
for
aerospace company out there
taste
right now.
testing.
Well, tell us a little bit about it.
Actual sensory
So
evaluation
the company's
done
called
at Johnson Space
NanoRacks,
Center, and this
and
was
we
the
are
crop
a truly
that was the most
commercial
highly
entity
rated.
in the
So
space
this is a
business,
very
which
small
is,
version of the plant.
It's a little confusing
They'll
to
be a
people when you
lot
say
bigger
commercial, but
when they're
our
growing,
funding
when
is
they're ready
almost
to harvest.
90-95% through investors, and the rest is a small percentage through NASA. And it started where my boss went to NASA and said, "Hey, I'm going to invest my own money into building payloads for the space station, and we just need the space on the space station. Can you work with us?" And they signed the Space Act agreement. And this was 2009, and we've flown since then. We've flown close to 300 payloads. So we've been busy little beavers. So needless to say, the company is commercial space is working. I would think.
Today, I was just having a conversation. We have Jim Siegel, one of our good photographers, and he was like, we were very skeptical of commercial space. We were used to the government model of how things were done, and we told SpaceX and others, look, our job is to tell the spaceflight story. That's what we do. If you launch and everything's wonderful, then the story is you launched everything wonderful. If you launched, it got up 10 feet in the sky and blew itself up, that's our story. That's what we have to work with. So in the beginning, it was a lot of slips, a lot of scrubs, and then all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, actually gradually, over the course of years, they got SpaceX got on their feet. They figured out what they were doing. Once they had figured out how to do what they wanted to do, they started to innovate and reinvent how things are done. And now I think you and I were discussing before we came on air that they're the ones to beat. They're the front runners right now in terms of space, because when we come out here, it's generally for a SpaceX launch.
Yes, it is right now, and
we're
they're
not exactly sure. These are
at least for a researcher point of view, they have down mass, or they bring stuff back, which is very
when the
important
crew
for
has
researchers right
an
now.
opportunity, they'll be able
something
to
for
grow
our
these.
researchers
And so,
truly
it'll also be when the crew is interested. But we hope
we have
they will be.
so
From what we've heard,
I have
they
to
really
at least say
enjoyed
that we have
growing
a
the
great
plants
partnership
when
with
they did
NASA
it
and
last time,
as well as
and
CASIS
other
as well.
astronauts seemed
And
quite
we
in
work with
favor
them
of growing the
to
plants. So,
implement what
here
is
you
just
can
an
see the
unprecedented
preparation that we
time
did
period where people are just
before,
the access to space
launch.
station
We
and
did
to
a
do
lot of
research is just
testing here on the
unprecedented
ground
right now.
at Kennedy.
There's never been a time period in
we had
humanity when you could
to
access
carefully,
the International Space
test all of
Station
the
so
different
readily
types of
than it is now.
before they go up
And
to the International
the space station
Space
is just
Station.
working
And,
beautifully for what it was meant
these
to
are
be.
the plant pillows.
Well,
from
we
the
actually
very
came in
first
here
test.
yesterday,
This
and
was red
Bill, I
romaine
was hoping you
lettuce.
could prep that package
And so
from the
this
folks
was,
at
the
Bell
first
Middle
test,
School.
we
We want
plant
to.
two
I'm glad
seeds
you
in each
did that,
pillow,
because it's always nice
and
to have a
then
good segue,
after
and that was an
about a
awesome
week,
one, by the way.
The astronaut taking care of them thins
These students,
down to
there's a
one
14-year-old
seed
young
in each
lady. Her
pillow,
name is Heidi
because
Smith.
we
I interviewed her
overplant
and her
to make
teacher
sure
Shanna
that the
Atzmiller
plants
yesterday,
germinate well and
Aren't they
grow
amazing?
uniformly.
She's
This
14
was
years old, and
Commander
she's got this
Swanson,
little
who was actually the caretaker of
payload
the
module, which is
plants
going to
on the
fly
last
these
flight.
worms, and they're
And
going to
this
study
is
how
when
they
he's
can
just
compost in space, so that
initiating
future astronauts who are going to terraform
So
other planets
he has
can produce
to,
their own food.
add
Isn't that amazing?
water
That is
to the
incredible.
different
She's
plant
14
pillows
years
after
old.
he-
Not
he
even
puts them
building
in.
it,
This
it's
is
also
actually the
thinking
installation
ahead
process.
of, hey, we're
He
gonna,
needs to
or
just
they
make
are
sure
gonna
there's no
explore
loose part
of
this
eventually, and they need to get their stuff together and say, hey, we need to think ahead and how are we going to live? We can't just send all our water and food up in rocket. We have
to be live what they call in the industry, it's in situ or on-site resources. And you got to maximize what you have at hand. So with that, let's take a look at what Shanna, I think her name is Shanna Asmiller and Heidi Smith had to say yesterday. Bill, take it away.
Really interesting.
My name is Shanna Atzmiller, science STEM teacher at Bell Middle School in Golden, Colorado. We put in a proposal to send an experiment up to the International Space Station with CASIS and nanoracks this year. We are looking to see if red wiggler worms can vermicompost in a microgravity environment. This experience for my students has been an amazing learning experience for all of us, even myself and our engineering teacher. We never thought that we could get a project designed and ready for spaceflight, and we have handed off to nanoracks this week, and we're really excited for the launch.
So we have worked with CASIS and nanoracks to send our experiment up to the International Space Station. For me, this experiment has been amazing. Like, for a 14-year-old, that is crazy. Like, who would expect a 14-year-old to send a project up to the International Space Station?
So with this experiment, we've had a lot of constraints that we've had to follow. I think the biggest constraint was the size of the habitat. We had a very small space to work with, and so having enough compost for the worms for a 21-day experiment did pose some of those challenges for us to make sure that we had everything we needed for those worms' survival. But we also wanted to make sure that our habitat was designed well enough so that they could survive during the course of our experiment. With that being said, we also worked on this project with 60 students, and so putting all of those student minds together and to work together to get a final product was a huge hurdle that we overcame throughout the year, and we're very proud of the work that they have done this year.
It's been crazy that I got to do this experiment just because I was one of the leaders for biology, and because I do love science, it was awesome for me to do that for our group and for our school, and just to represent Bell is amazing. But getting to send something up to the ISS in space is just phenomenal.
Space industry, as I'm a teacher and I've always loved aerospace, to see the future of space exploration is a very exciting thing for me, and to be able to bring that wonder and that inquiry into my classroom and see these students problem solving the way that these engineers are problem solving on a day-to-day basis has been a huge and exciting experience for me and for my students, and I hope to see some of my students in these fields in the future, because I know they're going to go far.
Aren't those guys just amazing? I mean, they were so excited. Oh, and by the way, Shanna is a actual teacher. You might consider she's looked a little old to be a student in like middle school. She's the teacher, not the student. We had a little rush on getting some of the prepackaged elements ready this morning.
So probably the coolest thing, my jaw dropped at the press conference yesterday when Fergie called them out.
Chris Ferguson?
Yes, Chris Ferguson during the talk. He said, how about these kids? I was like, wow, those kids must have just...
Isn't he the nicest guy?
He's awesome, yeah. But he called them out on the press conference. He said, hey, how about those kids that just... They must have been ecstatic.
I've always wondered what it would be like to come out here, because I work out here. This is what I do. And I always wondered what it would be like to have that experience, to be in the real world and then be pulled in to do that.
Yep.
So... Yep. Ferguson, I'm going to tell my favorite Chris Ferguson story. I hope I have enough time. I'm checking the time, folks. And long story short is STS-135, final mission, they trained the SDA to come out here, and I flew with him.
Awesome.
When they were training out there. I wanted to cry.
Nice.
Dude, they go down at that angle, and then they pull. Oh, my goodness.
That is not a normal angle.
Whoa. It was...
Especially if you're used to flying commercial, that is not.
I'm gonna throw back to the folks up in Canada. Bill, we're hearing that the NASA TV audio is drowning us out. So if there's any way you can drop that audio a little bit, it would be much appreciated. And we'll wait a second. Okay, so we'll actually pick that back up near to the actual launch, folks. So let's talk a bit about today. Today is the launch of the Falcon 9 V1.1 with its stretch fuel tank, stretch payload fairing, and the 9 Merlin 1D engines arranged in what's called the OctaWeb configuration. That's all well and good, isn't it? But the real fancy is the fact that this thing has got landing legs.
I know.
And they're going to make the third attempt. And, you know, when we first saw the video for this, we're like, never going to happen. And they've almost done it twice. So,
which is located on Cape Canaveral Air Force Station.
I do.
7,
Port
well, exactly. That's actually the name of the article. The headline, he just broke. No, that's fine.
Countdown here this morning.
They said last time, hey, we know what went wrong. And, you know, again, when somebody tells me something in a press release or they tell me, the journalist motto is, if your mother tells you she loves you, verify. I believe it when I see it, but when they almost had it last time. So I don't know. Now, the Falcon 9 has launched, I believe, 18 or 19 times prior to this. I think it's 18. They've launched once from Vandenberg with the Cassiopeia mission for the Canadian Space Agency. They flew the V1.1 version of the booster from 2010 to 2013, 5 flights of that, and then they moved on to the bigger, more powerful version, which is now they're using today. They are conducting today's flight under NASA's Commercial Resupply Services contract of $1.6 billion. Nothing to sneeze at there.
This is Falcon launch control.
It's more money than I think anyone out here is ever going to see. I'll tell you what. Now, as you were alluding to earlier, Dragon is unique because it's the only vehicle that we have currently that can actually return an appreciable amount of cargo. So I'm guessing that your company is heavily involved with that aspect of the Dragon as well.
It is an incredible aspect of the research, is because you can send stuff up and actually get it back in a decent amount of time, roughly 30 days. So the missions are we're given the number between 25 to 40 days to tell a researcher that's when you'll get your stuff back. That's when
Since you interact with the scientists, what has been their reaction to having this ability now?
It's amazing. So we worked with a researcher at Ames named Sharmila Bhattacharya, and she has flown
Heartflies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
I interviewed her. She's a great lady.
Isn't she awesome?
Yeah.
So she's flown on almost every flight with us, and she's just kicking out research left and right. And that's amazing to me. And myself as a scientist, working in a lab, that's the way science should be. And she'll send stuff up, come get it back. And I remember handing, I believe, Heartflies back to one of her students in LA when we just got it back fresh off Dragon. And within a couple hours, she was sending me pictures and data that they had actually got from the project.
So I mean, it's just the thing about SpaceX is they keep space interesting for us, because a lot of times it's an Atlas V 401, it's an Antares. It's like, okay, there's no noon there. With SpaceX, I gotta say that in a way I'm kind of concerned, because I am a skeptic of all things. I'm like, you're constantly innovating. That might not be the best thing, but I haven't seen it cause a problem yet. I mean, they had the one engine out anomaly way back when. They still got the primary payload drag into the ISS, and the only thing it impacted was a couple of Orbcomm satellites. So I mean, if that's your big failure, big deal.
Yep.
I mean, that's it. That's the worst you got. I mean, it's almost a 100% success rate. And for those of you who aren't space geeks like myself and Carl here, that's unheard of, because 75% of all launch. Wait a minute. I think it's 75% of all launch vehicles encounter a major failure within their first 3 flights, or it's either that or 75. There's a 75% chance of being a failure within the first, something to that effect. Well, one of the things we want to talk a bit about, and then we're going to show you exactly how SpaceX innovates, is the past week in space. Now, we had this all laid out. We were going to talk about, there was a launch of Sentinel-2A and the Persona spacecraft. Now, these are from the European Space Agency. They launched a Vega, and the Roscosmos, they launched I believe it was Soyuz 2.1A, and those things apparently have worked out fairly well. One is a military, and one is a Earth observation satellite. Ceres, they're finding weird mountain ranges. They still have no idea what those bright spots are, but we're continuing to look into that. And of course, we're getting closer and closer to the planet Pluto. So the dwarf planets are coming back into well, they're staying in the focus, I guess.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so cool.
I'll be honest. Initially, I was like, fuzzy blobs, but now they're starting to get some resolution, and I'm just like, seriously.
I want to know what that is.
Isn't that awesome?
Like, what? I mean,
that is going to be so amazing when they finally get there.
I will. July 14, 15. I already told the family. Just count me out. Space Florida is now they've officially taken charge of the shuttle landing facility here, and that's something I can say I've flown out of and flown back into. Nice. Yeah. So,
you're not
but.
bragging at all now.
Huh?
Not bragging.
No, I mean, if they, you know what, if you saw me the day of, it would not be bragging. I was like a little girl.
I mean, like
you
were. I would have been.
Oh my God, we're all gonna die. It was. I mean, you know, when you're sitting there and you're a little bit weightless.
Yeah.
Concerning. When you've never done it before, and when you go back the other way, and the camera you have is like pushing you into the seat, a little disconcerting.
It's not a normal view out the window.
But you know, Carl, the most fascinating aspect of this week has to be a story that came out of right field, out of nowhere. And just it really struck home. I actually got involved with this. I was just telling you, I'm former law enforcement. I actually stopped working in law enforcement to pursue this degree after we lost Columbia. So that had a big impact on my life. And the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex has unveiled the Forever Remembered exhibit. And if you haven't gone to our website, you should go there now, SpaceFlightInsider.com. And you should check out the images that Jared Hayworth took from the unveiling of that event yesterday. It's very hard to see elements of Challenger and Columbia, but I also think it's important. It drives home the fact that spaceflight is never routine, never routine.
Do they have any Kleenex at the front of it? Because I'm not.
I know.
I'm
serious. I haven't been there yet. I'm going to have to.
Yeah. They're passing out Kleenexes. I know I won't make it through there.
They have like an exhibit on each of the astronauts that lost their lives, and it's all their personal artifacts there. Yeah. That just wow. I am both looking forward to it and dreading it because I think it's going to be very, very hard to see. Yeah. But.
And I'm glad they did it. I'm glad they put it out there.
Well, they did a great job of keeping it under wraps too, because we didn't know anything, and they're announced this event. And I have to basically, I kind of hate it because this is my day job. I kind of had to sit there and go, okay, well, I don't know what it is, so I've got other things to do. And now I'm like, man, I wish I would have had some idea. I would have gone out to go to cover that, and I would have done some video stuff on it. But getting back to SpaceX and Dragon. I think one of the more interesting and innovative things. Let me just blah, 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 blah. SpaceX is always innovating, as we've said, and they're working on a variety of different projects and aspects of crewed, cargo, and just commercial missions. So with that, I'm going to have Bill put up a couple of very interesting video clips that we have. The first one will highlight, yes, it's very interesting to see them do their first stage return, but it's even more interesting to know that a triple body design of the same rocket is going to attempt this. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the pad abort test they had not too long ago. So, Bill, when you're ready with those, please let us know. And with that, we're going to throw to those to give us a second to recoup and get ready for the last... Ooh, we got like a half an hour. We only got like another 13 minutes with you. So, Bill, take it away.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch.
Right now, 150 meters per second. Slightly below nominal. We're over 1 kilometer. Trunk deploy. Drugs look good. Sequencing the mains. Passing through 600 meters. Downrange distance.
Max nose on purple. Close.
Hey guys, and we're back, and we're running out of time with Carl. He's got to run off to go. I don't know, watch his payload launch into space. I mean, what a boring day job you got. So
yeah, it's yeah.
Talk us about the folks.
Rocket.
Just another rocket launch. Talk to us about the folks that actually make these things happen, because I don't think they get mentioned quite enough. I mean,
sure. So we have on this flight we have about 16 modules, and we have 8 Planet Lab CubeSats. And about half of the modules that we have are through a group called the Student Spaceflight Experiments Program.
Mm-hmm.
And they are a student program that I think on this flight will reach probably close to 10,000 or a little over 10,000 people through students and teachers and stuff like that. And the second one is through our partners with the Center for the Advancement of Science and Space, or CASIS, and we're flying their modules. The experiments, one of them was the Wormonauts that you heard about.
Right.
It's through the National Design Challenge, which is they're starting to have a competition to fly research. And the pilot program started in Houston, so about half of those 4 are from Houston, and a few others are from Colorado. So we have everything from the worms that you heard of, to bacteria growth, to yeast growth, to algae. They're looking at there's another group that I thought was pretty awesome. They're looking at the growth of algae in microgravity and how well they grow in. Can they produce oxygen?
Now,
and not only produce oxygen, but they also bring in or remove from the air carbon dioxide, just like a plant, right?
What's the name of that experiment?
Algae. It's called AGAR. AGAR. Yeah. Yep. So they're looking at how you can literally, with another living thing, coexist in a small confined area, and it can absorb carbon dioxide and give off oxygen. I mean, these kids are awesome. They are so far ahead of where I was at their age.
I know, it just makes you feel bad. Like, God, what have I've wasted youth, misspent youth. You know, that's what I'm like. Oh man, what have I done with my life? And these kids are. I'm like, I asked Heidi yesterday. I said, "How old are you?" She goes, 14.
This is Falcon Launch Control.
I'm such a
loser. 28 minutes.
I mean, when I was 14, I was playing with GoBots.
Right.
I'm like,
most of all,
I was playing probably video games. No, it gives me a lot. It gives me a lot of hope, and I think we were just talking during the break there that I've been doing this a long time. I flew payloads as a researcher myself, and I grew up in Florida watching launches, and to interact with these kids who see it with fresh eyes is invigrating. I mean, I kind of feed off them their energy, and
that's been going very
because otherwise you see this every day. Not to say it gets boring, but it does become a little routine. But to see it through their eyes and to experience it, and to know that the majority of those kids are going to go off and do science or engineering and change the world is
in the SpaceX
I love it. I think it's very hopeful to me to work with them.
I think that's the reason why a lot of people are actually in this business, because we can look at our
range is clear, no issues there.
We can look at the horrible events that took place in South Carolina. We can look at the events that are taking place in Tunisia and elsewhere in the world.
Spectacular morning for
you can kind of lose your love for life if you look at the world through those lenses long enough. But when you come out here, and guys, it's a lot. You see all the cool stuff when you come on our show. This is a place to work, and it can get that way. But let's face it, it's work, but it's work with one of the most inspiring and exciting and just fun things you could possibly imagine. It really is a beacon out there in terms of there's so much negativity in the world, and when you come here, it's just like any place else, but it's not that bad, and it's even an order of I don't know how to phrase this, but in terms of scale, it really is inspiring to come out here every time.
Yeah, it takes a while to get your mind around it.
Yeah, it does. Really does. And I don't know, I don't know if you ever really can't, because there's sometimes when you just like. All right, and I hate to embarrass Carl, but he's almost gone. And he'll probably never see me again. He's only got 4 minutes, but he was telling us a story, and he's sitting out here today, and he was using the facilities, and lo and behold, who was sitting next to you?
Oh, you probably never heard of him. His name was Buzz Aldrin.
You just and that's the kind of stuff that that happens you're like you.
Honestly, the first thing that popped in my head is like, I wonder if they checked his badge at the gate.
yes, everybody has to get their badge checked at the gate. Everybody, even
I wonder
him.
if they even knew who he was. I mean, it's just funny. I was like, I'm like, wow. I mean, they must have wondered. But the guy even looked at his name and didn't even think about it.
What if you did a double take?
I have no idea.
But you come out here, guys, and you see stuff like this, and it's like. You can, like Carl was saying, kind of get into the routine of things, but then every once in a while you have that moment.
Yep.
And it's like you walk into a room and there's a spacecraft or a robot sitting there or an astronaut, and it's
very hard to stay professional, and a lot of times the 10-year-old comes out of me. It really does. I'm sitting there bobbing up and down in my seat, and I'm just like, wow,
doing the nervous giggle.
Yeah, oh yeah, it is on, and I don't know anybody. I mean, you do repress it a bit when you do see something new that you haven't seen before. I don't know anybody in this business that if you have been in it for the right reasons, it just doesn't get excited and inspired, really.
And that's why we keep doing it, isn't it?
Yeah. No.
Speaking of doing it, you got to go get some work done, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And we're lucky to have you for as long as we have. With that, Bill, why don't we run the one of the clips again? We'll let Carl go out and we'll resituate, and then we'll come back and say about 2 minutes. All right, guys. Well, we're back at NASA's Kennedy Space Center, and Carl has left us to go to OSB-2 and watch the launch. I've been asked to provide a weather briefing of my own, and the weather is awesomeness. There's like a little cloud over there. There's like one cloud way, way, way over there by the SLF, and there's a couple intermittent clouds here, but it's just basically set dressing at this point. It makes it beautiful. Beautiful Florida blue skies, great weather. They last I heard, we were still at 90% chance of favorable conditions for launch. I have not heard that the launch team is working any issues at this time, and we are currly at about 18 minutes away from launch. I'd like to talk about SpaceFlight Insider's team. I don't think that Bill has had the opportunity to download some of the pictures we put on Facebook, but if you check out our Facebook page, there should be some there, and you can see some elsewhere as they coming up. They were up at 1:45, actually before 1:45, and they were out at Space Launch Complex 40, setting up still in video cameras so we can produce all the awesome of the launch of Falcon 9. And these guys have not had a lick of sleep all night. They have been up working. So what I'm going to do is we normally take this time to catch up on what SpaceFlight Insider does, and I'm going to say we're very happy to have WMEL AM 1300 join us. The Astronaut Scholarship Foundation has been really great. We had a great time covering the Hall of Fame induction, and so much thanks to Nicole Russ and Amanda Miner over there. But I really want to take time to thank Michael Howard, Mike Deep, Jared Hayworth, Trevor Mallman. And if you folks don't know who Trevor Mallman is, if you've seen the shot, the guy took a picture of the ISS passing while he was on a plane. That's made the rounds all over the internet. That's Trevor, and he's wisely decided to join SpaceFlight Insider, at least for this launch. He's having a good time. He's crashing with the other photographers, and we're all they're all working together. They fielded some, I think, 15 cameras I heard out at the Slick 40, and that includes still and video. So we're hopeful that we can do a great job in terms of relaying just how exciting today's launch is going to be to you afterwards. But again, I have to stop and thank the people that make this company possible, and it's only a very small part of me. I'm just the most visible. I'm like the astronaut, I guess. I'm the most visible part, but without Bill Christie, without Sean Costello, we would not have a live webcast like we do. Without Mike Howard, Mike Deep, Jared, and Trevor, Mike Seeley, we would not have the amazing still images that you guys enjoy and the video packages that you enjoy.
Report
they are the ones that make all this possible, and they are the ones who do all the hard work. I'd like to thank Ivan Simic, who basically is our copy editor. He's joined us and done a great job in terms of making sure that our content's a little better. As most of you who follow us know, we have a load of content we try to bring to you every day. We have very limited staff. Most of them are volunteers or they're interns from Florida Institute of Technology, one of our great partners, and they work like troopers, but we do try to churn out a lot. We try to produce a lot. We try to work like much larger outlets, and we do make some mistakes. Thankfully, I have Ivan Simic and Ray End who assist me with that and make sure that doesn't happen. I got to thank Ray yesterday for helping pick up parts of the article that we produced on the Forever Remembered exhibit. Really just an amazing team, an amazing group of people, and we're working on a surprise for you guys. Because we've noticed that we've kind of shaken things up a little bit in the community, and people are trying to say, wow, they got a beautiful site. We need to make ours look awesome. Well, you can't rest on your laurels, folks, and we're about to unveil our latest and greatest SpaceFlight Insider. So we're hoping to have something to show for you in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned at SpaceFlightInsider.com for that. Everything is, as we are hearing now, is going fairly good with this launch. We are checking, and we are just at about 15 minutes away from liftoff. This mission will also see the IDA docking adapter, and I was talking with Bill prior to coming on the show. I don't know what the I stands for, but I'm pretty sure the DA stands for docking adapter. So I'm probably saying if Bill's saying it's probably International Docking Adapter. So essentially what this will do is it will allow the shuttle version of the docking adapter that's on station. It will be mounted to it, and it'll allow for the commercial spacecraft, the Boeing CST-100, SpaceX's Dragon, and their Crew Dragon spacecraft. It allowed them to be docked to the station. The space station recently underwent a little bit of shifting around. They moved some of the components around to allow the commercial vehicles to go there. And it really has been an amazing few months watching events. Of course, Russia's space program is not in good shape. Yes, they're starting to launch again, but it seems like every other launch they have some kind of issue or problem, and they're working things out. But in the meantime, the commercial companies one company had a minor setback last year, and they're working to recoup that and make sure that they stay on target for this year and that they return to flight as early as next year. And then, of course, you got SpaceX, who has been just consistently meeting milestones. They did the pad abort test, which you saw, which was an experience, folks. We were sitting there, and we're used to the launches, and we really didn't know what we would see. And to be honest, we're going to wait. Bill, can you pull up the audio for the count so the people at home can hear it?
This is Falcon Launch Control, T-minus 13 minutes, 32 seconds and counting. Standing by now for our final polls for the countdown this morning, coming up in about the next half a minute.
Give me 1 second. I want to respond to one of our gentlemen. But real quick is the launch director has said that they are go for launch. They're proceeding with terminal count. We are now 13. Correction, we are now 12 minutes away from launch. In a couple minutes, we will go out and we will just show you the NASA feed. I think what we're going to do, Bill, is we'll do the split screen. I will stay here, and the folks can, I may even reposition the computer so they can actually see the pad. And the launch, which is always good to know that Sean, our other producer up in Canada, loves to hear that. We will be throwing to that in about 2 minutes' time. Again, today will be the launch of a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, the V1.1 version with a Dragon, the uncrewed variant of that, and it'll be launching some 4,000 sooner, but due to the loss of the Progress 57 or 27M 59, 27M 59P spacecraft, which you can see the video on our YouTube page of it just spinning out of control. I think NASA had to restack what the supplies on Dragon were to kind of make up for that loss. And so today, that's kind of why that launch has slipped. Now, yesterday, SpaceX conducted a static test fire at 4 p.m. EST. They encountered no issues at that time. Everything proceeded according to plan. And at this... Okay, at this time, they're just letting the other controllers know that if they do have a hold, to announce hold. And that... essentially, folks, if we hear a hold, there's going to be no launch today. This is what we call an instantaneous launch window. It lasts 1 second. Now, for those of you who have followed the space program, we've had a lot of crazy launches, a lot of windows being changed on us, left, right, every which way you can imagine. And it's been things are kind of more dynamic here. But the instantaneous launch window is both a blessing and a curse, because it's a blessing because either you're going to go at that point or you're going to go home. Or it's a curse because either you're going to go at that point or you're going to go home and you got to come back and do it the next day. So we are here and they're getting ready to come out of the hold. And it does not appear that they're working anything at this
or hold condition by saying hold on the primary countdown.
And they're out of they're in the terminal countdown hold. And with that, with 10 minutes before launch, SpaceFlight Insider is going to let you enjoy the awesome. And we're going to position our camera so you can actually see the launch taking place from our screen here, along with NASA's feed. And with that, Bill, I'm going to need your help to reposition the camera. And folks, go SpaceX, go Falcon 9, go Dragon.
Sequence.
Attention all personnel, stand by to pick up the count. T-minus 10 minutes and counting on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. BC verified auto sequence has started.
Terminal count auto sequence has started.
GCVC standby on FireX.
Standing by. Standing by.
LD start the tracking camera video recorders.
Started.
OSM set launch enable to flight.
Flight. Stage 1 engines shelling in. Spin and T-tip final setups.
T-minus 9 minutes.
Dragon going to internal power in less than a minute. T-minus 8 minutes, 30 seconds.
T-minus 8 minutes.
Nitrogen ACS closeout. Stage 2 FTV motions. Stage 1 heaters closing out.
T-minus 7 minutes.
This is Falcon Launch Control, T-minus 6 minutes, 45 seconds and counting. The terminal countdown is being beamed live to the International Space Station.
Vehicle switching to internal power. TVC bleed stage 2 has started.
T-minus 6 minutes.
Tanks pressing for strong back retract. RP1 bleed stage 2 starting.
Strongback should retract from the vehicle about 4 minutes and 20 seconds before liftoff.
RP1 bleed stage 1. We have cradle movement.
T-minus 5 minutes.
Cradle's fully opened. TVC motions on stage 2. Strong back motion.
T-minus 4 minutes.
Stage 2 TVC motions complete. Tanks venting, post strong back retract. Pogo accumulator vent.
FTS is on internal power. FTS is armed.
GNC, verify good stage 2 TVC motion.
GNC confirms good stage 2 TVC motion. Lock load closing out. MVAC igniter purge has started.
Stromback fully retracted and pinned.
Stage 1 throttle valve setups. Stage 2 helium fill closeout.
LD, verify go for launch.
This is the LD on countdown 1. SpaceX Falcon 9 and Dragon are go for launch.
Stage 1 tanks pressing for flight. Vehicles in self-align. TVC final setup. Stage 2 BTV check complete.
Range green.
Stage 1 helium fill closing out. Spin and stage step ISOs closed. Vehicles in manual. Vehicles in auto idle.
BC and DC, verify F9 and Dragon are in startup.
F9 is in startup.
Dragon is in startup.
And
Stage 2 tanks pressing for flight. Flight computer has control of the vehicle.
Means we're go for terminal count.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Pad water system armed.
T-minus 20. T-minus 15. T-minus 10. 8. 7.
6. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Ignition sequence start and liftoff of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, adding to the International Space Station access for future American rockets. And Falcon has cleared the tower.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Vehicles programming downrange.
Utilization is active. Power and telemetry nominal.
1 minute. Altitude, speed 290 meters per second, downrange distance 1.1 kilometers. Vehicle supersonic.
Recovery drone ship has AOS.
Vehicles reach maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Stage 1 propulsion is still nominal.
Power and telemetry remain nominal.
MVAC chill has begun.
T plus 2 minutes. Altitude 32 kilometers. Speed 1 kilometer per second. Downrange distance 13 kilometers.
Eddie coming back shows vehicle on course.
All right, guys. We've had a launch vehicle failure at the Kennedy Space Center when it appeared to occur right during the time of staging. We apologize for the rough nature of this, but we've had to kind of turn around kind of quick. During staging, it looked abnormal. It didn't look right, and basically there was a larger plume than what we're used to seeing. Staging is usually very clean with the Falcon 9. You hardly notice anything at all, but we could see it on the countdown clock monitor first, and then we looked up. There was a puff of white smoke, and apparently there has been a launch vehicle failure. We're listening to the controllers right now. NASA's George Diller is saying that they've had what they're calling a non-nominal flight. That means the flight of CRS-7 is a failure. The launch has apparently roughly. I'm going on a guess here, folks, because I can't have everything in front of me. But about 2 minutes into the flight during staging, I believe it was. And if Bill, can you give me the exact time of staging, or maybe that the event took place? I would appreciate it. So we're working to get you that information, folks. But at this time, it does look like the Falcon 9 has failed. That means a loss of the launch vehicle and the Dragon spacecraft on board. We are currently working to get you what information we can. But after liftoff, most of the folks went inside, and then staging occurred. And at staging, it looked like it was during the only way I can describe it is you normally see staging occurred, and there's a bit of smoke as the second engine activates and the second stage takes off. And in this case, it looked much larger, and you could see small parts of the booster, it appeared, fall away from the vehicle. So at this time, we are, it's very sad to report, but SpaceX has encountered their first failure. NASA's George Diller is telling us that the range, the 45th Space Wing has confirmed that the launch vehicle has broken up. Hold on one second, please. Folks, bear with us. We're hearing this, and we're trying to relate it to you in real time, but what we are hearing right now is that the range may have had a part to play in the disposition of the vehicle. Apparently something went off nominal, and it may have, the range may have destructed the launch vehicle in and around staging. At this time, I'm trying to get a confirmation that it actually occurred during staging. It's the accident may have been very similar, given a similar appearance to the actual staging of the Falcon 9 V1.1 booster. SpaceX is currently putting together an anomaly team. They're going to be doing a review of this ASAP. This is the first time that SpaceX has ever encountered a major anomaly on site. And with this is a rather major incident, because as some of you know, it was done, from what we're hearing, it was a precautionary measure. The range has destructed the launch vehicle and the spacecraft. We are not hearing at this time what the cause of that caused the 45th to the range safety to self-destruct the rocket. We have not heard what that was, but this is coming from NASA TV. We are uncertain. NASA is uncertain at this time of what the anomaly was, but the SpaceX is forming an anomaly team to look into the incident.
Putting together their anomaly team to put together.
Things looked good right from the start. There were no issues that we saw from the initial launch. All right. Right now, the anomaly team is working the problem, and we did not see any problems at liftoff. It was a very clean flight, very normal. It did seem to be a little slow off the pad from what we've become accustomed to, but with the larger payload that was on this one, you know, it was around 4,000 pounds of cargo was on board the station. A lot of experiments were going up to the ISS. This accident follows the Progress M27M accident that took place in April, and it marks the third time in 2 years.
It's not clear yet from the day
my math is correct, so I don't want to tell you anything that's incorrect.
They are beginning to play back video to.
Okay, so we're hearing some changes in what NASA's saying because they actually figure out what took place in the timeline of the events that things will change. So we're just going to go with what we know to date, and that is this is the third incident of a cargo vessel. These things are unmanned, of course, they're uncrewed. That has been lost on its way to the International Space Station. Last year, in Orbital ATK, Antares was lost 12 seconds into flight. That also is under NASA's Commercial Resupply Services. And then just 2 months ago in April, we had the loss of a Russian Progress M-27M booster with the thousands of pounds of cargo after it had got placed into orbit. Apparently, it had a peculiarity, as they said, and it impacted with the launch vehicle's upper stage, and it was spinning out of control, and it was lost on May 8th. Now, today, the launch took off as usual. As I was telling you just a short time ago, there were no problems that we saw from the initial stages of the launch. People started filing back in like it as usual, but then at around about the time when this is not hard and fast data, but I believe right around the time that staging would normally occur, it appears that there was an anomaly with the rocket, something that caught the range's attention, and they were forced to activate the flight termination hardware on the booster, which is to prevent the booster from actually flying into a populated area and injuring anyone. We are hearing at the time that the rocket was destroyed by the range. NASA apparently, Bill, can you give me any word on what they're saying? Okay, the range is saying, we are hearing now that they're not sure that the range caused the complete destruction of the vehicle. We are hearing that it has been completely destroyed, but we are not hearing a confirmed report that it was the range officer that did it, or if it was an anomaly with the booster itself. So we're unsure at this time, and we just want to let you know this is a rapidly unfolding event. We're trying to get information as we hear it and as we relay it to you. The launch was beautiful. I mean, it took off right on time. Again, an instantaneous launch window. You only get 1 second to basically get it off the pad, and they have gotten very good at doing that. And this time, everything appeared to be going well. And Bill, I'm guessing that was like 1 minute 45 seconds to what? 2 minutes into the flight when that event took place. About 2 minutes in, roughly 2 minutes into the flight, you could see a large puff of smoke. And we assumed at the time that was staging, but now we know that was not the case. The rocket was destroyed, a complete loss of the Dragon spacecraft and the Falcon 9 launch vehicle itself. Now, this marks the first time that SpaceX has encountered such an anomaly with their booster, and it could be a problem with the rocket itself. It could be, we don't know, because we are hearing that the range was responsible for the destruction of the rocket. Then that is unconfirmed at this time. We've heard that, and then we've heard no, it was not. So we're getting conflicting information as to what has actually taken place. But it was very obvious that something went wrong because there was a large puff of smoke. You could see what appeared to be debris briefly, and then we tried to track it and find anything. But we are hearing that the rocket was completely destroyed along with the Dragon spacecraft. This marks the second failure under NASA's Commercial Resupply Services contract. The first took place in 2014, in October of 2014, I believe, and that was an Antares booster with its Cygnus spacecraft from the NASA's Wallace Flight Facility in Virginia. And, of course, they did an investigation, and it appears to be the HA-26 rocket engine might have been responsible for the loss of that booster and its payload. And now this rocket, first time I believe today was the 19th launch of a Falcon 9, and it was the first time that the SpaceX team has encountered a failure of their Falcon 9 booster. So obviously this is a all right, right now, NASA's only released the information that's saying something went wrong with the launch. That is it. And it's rather obvious at the point that something went wrong because the launch vehicle was completely destroyed. We do know that at this time, so we do not know what the problem was. And, of course, there's going to be an investigation to find out. And they'll have to, as we have information brought to us, we'll try to bring it to you as soon as possible. But at present, we do not know what caused the loss of the SpaceX Falcon 9 or Dragon spacecraft, and I'm actually got one of our folks here with us, and Jim, I'm wondering if you would mind coming on for a minute to talk a bit about our concerns and a bit about today's launch. And folks, forgive us again. This is a very dynamic situation here. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring on Jim Siegel and. We're going to talk a bit about what we just saw. Jim, I mean, you have the telephoto lens. Here, put that on there, and then Bill. I know. Let me know when we're both in frame. All right. So, Jim, you were on top of the Florida Today building.
That's right, Jason. I was on top of the Florida Today building. Trees partially obscure the launch pad, so I wasn't able to see exactly liftoff. But I followed the rocket as it came out of the trees and all the way up into the air as far as I could see it. Mm-hmm. And I did not see anything that looked like an explosion.
It almost looked like staging. Did you see that point of the launch?
There was a point, maybe almost at the top of the apogee where there was smoke coming out of the rocket, and up to that point, I didn't see any contrails, and I was a little surprised at that because usually I like to photograph that. Mm-hmm. But right toward the end of its flight, there appeared to be some sort of contrail, some sort of smoke or vapor or something coming out. But again, I did not see anything that looked like an explosion. All of a sudden, the flame disappeared. But I don't know if that was because it was beyond my eyesight or because something happened.
Did. Well, the same thing that I noticed was that there was a distinct lack of an explosion or a fireball. We were hearing George Diller telling it. At this time, he's not really giving. They're saying they still have to get the timeline figured out. And they did say that the loss was at 2 minutes and 19 seconds. Okay, SpaceX is telling us, folks, at this time that the vehicle had encountered an anomaly on ascent and that more updates are to come. This, again, keep in mind, this just happened a few minutes ago. So it's a very dynamic situation here at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I've got Jim Siegel here with me. Jim, you were on top of the Florida Today building, and you were stating that, you didn't really see an explosion per se. I didn't notice that either. The only thing I noticed was there was a puff of smoke, which I thought was staging at the time, and then I thought I saw a little bit of debris, but that was about it. Was that pretty much what you saw?
Yes, it is, although I didn't see any debris, but your eyes are about half the age of mine, so even though I had a 500-millimeter lens.
Well, I was actually seeing it on the countdown clock.
Okay, all right, okay, so maybe you were able to see something that I didn't see.
Data that's being pieced together.
It's just sad, and I thought about the students all lined up along the railing of the patio up on top of the OSB-2 building, right in back of me. About 1,000 yards, and during the liftoff and the ascent, I heard several cheers go up from the
and those are from Bell Middle School. They're from Littleton, Colorado.
These are from all over the United States. Bell Middle School in Golden, Colorado. We had Chatfield High School in in Littleton, Colorado, a number of schools from Colorado. I believe there might have been one from California, one out east as well. So a number of students, 26 students from the high school participated in the experiment that they did, which had to do with growing algae in space and seeing whether they could produce enough oxygen from hydrogen from that growth to use it as a fuel in space. So this would be a kind of grow your own renewable fuel kind of experiment. So they had 4 tubes of experiment having to do with algae in their little nano box. And so I thought about them, and I thought how disappointed they must be.
There are a lot of student payloads on this, and we just had NanoRacks. Carl Carruthers was here for about a half an hour prior to it, and he's talking to us about it. And it was very exciting to hear. But again, I think this goes back to a conversation you and I had earlier. Not too long ago, I penned an op-ed that said, "Look, this is not routine," and I'm going to just leave it at that. And I think, unfortunately, today's point drives it home.
Well, that's correct.
Okay, we're getting a report that Elon Musk is reporting that the Falcon 9 booster's problem occurred shortly before first stage shutdown, which led to us believing that it was just nominal staging. But of course, it looked wrong. We've seen this enough times. Like, this is my 17th Falcon 9 launch, or 18th, I guess now, and it looked wrong. So, we initially came out when SpaceX started coming out here. They were very different. They were different than what we were used to, and it took some while to get used to how they operated. And we were like, okay, well, this is how they are, and we're going to have to find our way with them. And there were some things he said and did for those of us that have been doing this for a long space program long enough that were troubling. And one of them was they decided not to have a live webcast callback. It's because these are too routine. And the word routine was used right before we lost Challenger. So for a lot of us in the community, that raised a lot of red flags. We were very concerned. But then, you can't argue with success. SpaceX has had, up until today, a phenomenal success rate, something we highlighted. They've had 18 launches, no major problems, one minor problem with an engine anomaly, and that only caused the loss of the secondary payload.
That's correct. And, it's been kind of amazing to me how quickly they've been able to get up to flight and get successful flights to the International Space Station, considering or compared to its competitors. Really kind of amazing. Now, SpaceX strikes me as a very cautious company in a way, but also a company that is not afraid to test the edge of the envelope.
And to be innovative.
Yep. And constantly looking for ways of improving their processes. And I admire that, and Elon and the rest of the group. I will say, however, that they tend to be rather, perhaps, risk-averse when it comes to sharing things with the media, and perhaps that's for good reason. Maybe they've been burned in the past, kind of, who knows.
Right.
But I admire them very much, and I feel sorry for all of the people who've been participating in this launch, who prepared the rocket, prepared Dragon. It'll be interesting to see whether, and I asked this question earlier, is it possible for them to separate and deploy the Dragon capsule before first stage separation? I don't know the answer to that, but it'll be kind of interesting to know. It would be wonderful if they could retrieve the capsule with at least some of the experiments, but we'll have to wait for the SpaceX people to tell us more.
Well, Jim, we are hearing that the range will be cleared probably in about 5 minutes' time, when there's going to be aircraft that are going to fly over the site where the Falcon 9 booster struck the Atlantic Ocean, or crashed out in the Atlantic. We also want to let you know that SpaceFlight Insider's Facebook account is starting to post page images, and I'm going to pull this one up for us to look at real quick. I don't know if Bill, if you can maybe show it to us. We can see. There is one in particular that you can see what does look like, and I don't know if I would call it an explosion, but there's a puff of smoke. So they're continuing to work and figure out what went wrong. Again, there's going to be aircraft in the area in about probably about 5 minutes time. They're going to figure out where it happened. We do have images up on SpaceFlight Insider. They're actually screen grabs of actual NASA TV, and we're working to get those up on our feed here so you can see what we saw. Bill is currently working that in Canada. Bill, thank you for staying on top of this breaking story. Jim, I don't want. What I would think is this is going to be something that they're going to experience. It's actually, and I know I'm going to be criticized for probably saying this is probably a good thing.
Well, they'll be more cautious in the future for sure, and at least it didn't happen with a manned flight. I mean, that's really important.
This is Falcon
and it's interesting to me, and Jason, you and I have discussed this a number of times, how amazing it was that back in the 1960s technology, the United States was able to send men to the moon and bring them back. And think about it, the moon is 1,000 times farther than the International Space Station. The moon is 212,000 miles away. The space station is 200 miles away. And the fact that they were able to do that truly.
And now, you know, the private companies are doing what they were doing in the early ages of the space age. And what I was alluding to earlier, it might be a good thing because,
but it's still not clear.
The images should be up on our. You should start seeing these images, and I want to thank Bill Christie for working them. But essentially, SpaceX has encountered no difficulties with their Falcon. Well, I would say no difficulties of this type with their launch vehicle up until now. And it's like you were saying, they're planning on launching crews in the next 2 years. So it might be best if they had their problems now. But the thing is you have to look at the history. Everybody will look at, well, this point in time. Like they looked at Antares when that happened last year. Well, yeah, what about the launches that took place before that? Yes, they've had a problem, but considering all the different parts and components and the engines and the launch vehicle itself, and the fact that they haven't had a major problem until that point. Now, SpaceX they basically are their own entity. I mean, they have their own space program because they don't buy boosters from one company or a spacecraft from another company. What they do is they go and they build it all themselves.
They even make their own thermal protection system.
All right, folks, at this time we're hearing that there will be a news conference, but it will be no earlier than 12:30. Spaceflight Insider will be going, we are extending our broadcast today for about another 15 minutes, and I'm hoping we'll hear maybe a little something then. Well, Bill in Canada is saying we're not going to be going anywhere, but essentially, long story short is there's some people that are starting to come back, and I'm willing to bet we're going to start seeing some images of what took place. You got the big boys up there with their telephoto lenses.
Right.
But what I was saying earlier was, they've had this problem, whatever it is today, and yes, it's really sad for the kids. It is, but I would rather it happen now.
Absolutely.
And for them to say, oh, well, it was this, and then to fix it. And, when they had the engine out anomaly on, I think it was CRS-7, they didn't make a big deal of it. They figured out what was wrong, and they went and they flew again. So I'm fairly certain that's what's going to happen now. And, I think this accident does come at a kind of inopportune time, because as you follow politics, you know that the politicians have actually worked to cut the budget for the Commercial Resupply and Crew program, or is it just Commercial Crew?
I think it might be both.
It might be both, and so this probably could not come this is not coming at a very good time, but it's happened, and hopefully SpaceX will continue to work what the problem was and get their booster back into sky.
SpaceX doesn't strike me as a company that is swayed a lot by politicians and by the opinions of a small minority of naysayers who are inevitably out there.
Yes.
But going back to the experiments that the students brought on board, it'll be interesting now to know what is going to happen.
I imagine they'll probably fly them again.
Whether they will be allowed to fly them again, get back in line, if you will.
Yeah.
I believe that the experiments for the next flight are already set and on the manifest, but We'll have to ask the people at CASIS about this.
Well, at the press conference. I wonder if they're going to be at that press conference. We are hearing the NASA helicopter passing by overhead at this or behind
2 minutes.
Actually, correction on that.
Altitude
I believe
32
this
kilometers.
could be the range because we are seeing a Black Hawk helicopter, and it's at a distance, but it looks to have an orange nose. So that could be the Coast Guard. We are uncertain. But it's obvious that aircraft are being deployed to the site of where the rocket crashed out into the Atlantic. Again, liftoff took place right on time at 10:21 a.m. at the very open, and they're instantaneous. The only opportunity they had. The first minute and 45 seconds of the flight appeared to be very nominal, very normal, a little slow off the pad maybe, but no issues as usual.
Right.
And then apparently at the 2 minute, I believe 19-second mark, the SpaceX Falcon 9 encountered an anomaly, and there was obviously something wrong. Bill, if you want to put that image up again, that staging with the Falcon 9 is usually pretty clean, as we like to call it. There's not a lot of debris, there's not a lot of smoke or anything, and there was a lot of smoke with this, and I think I could be mistaken, but it looked like on the countdown clock there was maybe some debris there. I don't know. We'll probably find out more about that later. Again, NASA is going to be having a news conference at 12:30. Yes, sir. I'm getting feed from our guy in Canada, and we were kind of shocked because we're so used to these SpaceX Falcon 9 launches. Just they push the button, the rocket goes up, and then everybody's at home in time for dinner. And now with this one, I don't know. I feel really bad for SpaceX. I feel bad for the students that had their payloads on it. But in a way, I'm curious to see how this is going to happen, because this is the first accident of this type with this launch vehicle that SpaceX has encountered. I mean, from your experience with them, how do you think they're going to respond?
Well, I think they're going to respond in a very orderly kind of way. They seem to be that kind of company.
Right.
The question, I guess, that'll be interesting to some of us in the media, how well do they prepare for this sort of thing ahead of time?
What kind of contingencies do they have in place?
Exactly. And after this was first announced, maybe 2 or 3 minutes after the anomaly was announced, they did say that they were organizing some sort of anomaly team.
Correct. And they were very quick to announce that. Yes. I was very impressed by that.
Yes. So, but that may be just part of their standard operating procedure.
SOPs.
One would think that it is.
Okay, we're hearing that it does. There does appear to be an explosion that took place when what we thought was staging was occurred. But even from the ground, and when after 2 minutes in the flight, it's pretty far up there. It was rather apparent. Yeah, this is not the official word. This is just what we're seeing on the ground, folks. So please keep that in mind. Things are still very fluid. SpaceX and NASA both are doing a very good job of keeping us informed. Here shortly, we are going to conclude our live broadcast because I'm going to have to go in, and of course, and I'm going to have to work the accident article for this, unfortunately. But at this time, we want to give you a recap of what we know to date, and that is at 10:21, the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket lifted off cleanly, neatly from the pad. A little slow, it seemed, but no problems. And approximately 2 minutes and 19 seconds into the flight, an anomaly occurred. There was a puff of smoke. There looked to be maybe a little bit of debris or something, and we didn't know what had happened, but we know something was wrong. Maybe, I thought at the time, personally, this is just my opinion, that maybe the first stage, when it had fallen away, it had encountered an anomaly, and the second stage was going to be going on to deliver the cargo to orbit. But it became very, very apparent that that was not the case. They immediately started to say that the vehicle was a complete loss, and that the mission was pretty much done at that point.
That's right.
And then we've recently heard that in the next, should be any minute now, if not right now, that there's a team of aircraft will be going out to the site where the Falcon 9 booster impacted the ocean, and at that point the range will be cleared, because right now the range is not clear. The range is hot, and yeah, NASA TV has currently gone dark, and I think we are actually about ready to close up shop here. I think we've heard everything that we're going to hear from this point until the press conference at 12:30. So at that time, Bill, what I'm going to ask you to do for today is to I'll try to get inside, and we'll add a feature to the top of the page so folks can follow this. I would like you to attach a link to NASA TV so that folks can follow this. We'll keep that at the top of our page for a while so that you can track and monitor the updates as we find out more about this launch anomaly. With that, folks, Jim and I, we obviously have a lot to do right now. We want to find out what's going on here, and we'll get the information out to you as soon as possible. We're going to conclude our broadcast now. We want to thank everyone for making the show possible today. We are sorry that things did not work out for SpaceX. Hopefully, this will be just a minor setback, and they'll be back on track in the next a few months. So, with that, folks, SpaceFlight Insider Live is going to conclude from the launch of CRS-7. We can report that at this time the Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon booster have been lost.